Welcome to the Happier Life Project, the official podcast from the award-winning mental health and wellness app, My Possible Self. Hosted by broadcaster and journalist Gabby Sanderson.
Hi and welcome to the Happier Life Project, the podcast where we explore the psychology, science and stories behind what it means to live a happier, healthier and more fulfilling life. I'm Gabby. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself thinking, why do I keep ending up here? Maybe it's the same kind of relationship, the same arguments, the same financial struggles, the same self-doubt, or perhaps it's that familiar feeling of knowing exactly what you need to change, yet somehow finding yourself repeating the same patterns anyway. Why do we do that? Why is awareness so often not enough to create lasting change? Those are the questions at the heart of today's conversation. Joining me is therapist, TEDx speaker and creator of the A.S.K method, which stands for A Serenity Kit, Kelly Armatage. Kelly has worked with more than 15,000 clients around the world, helping people understand how subconscious conditioning, childhood experiences, and inherited emotional patterns continue to influence the way we think, feel, and behave as adults. In our chats, Kelly and I explore how the experiences we have had in childhood become the blueprint for our adult lives. Why awareness alone is rarely enough to create lasting change, and how emotional patterns can be passed down through the generations without us even realising it. We also dive into some fascinating ideas around perception, emotional suffering, psychological payoffs, mother and father wounds, and the hidden reasons we hold on to behaviours that no longer serve us. But what I appreciated most about this fantastic conversation is that it doesn't just stop at explaining why we get stuck. Kelly shares some incredible practical techniques from her A.S.K method that anybody can begin to use to interrupt emotional triggers, challenge limiting beliefs, and start responding differently, and I would say a lot more compassionately, in the moments that matter most. So whether you're trying to break free finally from old relationship patterns, quieten your inner critic, change your relationship with money, with yourself, or simply understand yourself a bit better, I really hope this conversation leaves you feeling not only understood, but equipped with tools that you can take into your own life. If you ever thought, I know I'm doing this, I know I'm not doing myself any good, so why can't I stop? Then this episode is for you, my friend. Ready to find a healthier, happier you? Let's get started. Welcome, Kelly Armatage, to the Happier Life Project podcast. Thrilled to finally have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, Gabby.
I really enjoy your Instagram page. I'm going to start with that. That's how I originally discovered you. And I'm very keen to learn about your A.S.K method. We'll get into that and how you've figured out this way to help people with something that I think most people struggle with. And this is some very old conditioning and unhelpful patterns that we just can't seem to break the cycle of, that's really holding us back. That's my kind of synopsis, I suppose, of where we're going. But just for people that might be meeting you for the first time, how would you describe what you do?
I would say that I help people to clear stored trauma from their nervous systems and to rewire unhelpful thought patterns, emotional states, and habits. That in its entirety can transform any area of an individual's life.
Mm. I'll piggyback from that with a quote from the book, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Every one of us carries layers of intergenerational trauma, ineffective childhood, and societal conditioning. These patterns shape our emotions, thoughts, and actions. When left unexamined, they can keep us trapped in repetitive cycles that limit our growth, relationships, and overall well-being. Yeah, so I really do want to explore that with you today. But like, how does that even start?
It starts from day one, really, in that each baby is born into the world as a blank canvas, which is what I say in the book. We're all born as a blank canvas. We're not trained or behaviorally trained yet. We immediately become behaviorally trained via parental, parenting, your parents, how they parent you. The modeling that you are doing, we are modeling parents. Sometimes we consciously model them, and sometimes we unconsciously choose to not model them.
Mm-hmm.
And then just life's experiences shape us. So we pick up how to behave. We pick up how to think, how to feel, how to behave. That is our conditioning. So an example is if you have an anxious mother, then you are observing anxiety as an emotional and behavioral pattern. And most likely you will also model that as a habit, as an emotional and physical habit. And similarly, if, say, your father had financial fear, you may pick up the habit to be financially fearful within your finances. And so those conditionings are trained in at an early age, or even as a teenager, or even somebody, say, last week, if you had a very difficult breakup, you may then pick up a habit around fear of commitment, which you can then carry forward. So life is conditioning us, obviously very deeply in our formative years, but just generally going through life, we're being shaped, guided, shown, mistreated, controlled to behave.
Yay. I just couldn't help think when you were speaking that, like, obviously some people are luckier than others with who they are raised by. But for the most part, like, nobody's perfect, are they? And maybe that anxiety comes from something that your mother's mother went through. So it's kind of like, it's not necessarily going, it's their fault and this is why I am the way I am, because I don't think that's helpful either. And I see that sort of popping up on Instagram, for example, with some people that like to blame. Exactly. Yeah. But I suppose more of what you do is like, okay, we've got this conditioning. What do we do about it?
Yes. What do we do about it? Specifically, if that conditioning is causing a lot of pain in your life. And actually, pain regarding a conditioning is wonderful because it is deep pain that is the precursor before change. So in a way, we really want pain in order to transition this conditioning. And yeah, we all have helpful and unhelpful behavioral conditioning in every single area of our life. The most unhelpful conditioning in your life will be the one that you are ruminating on specifically. So if there's a very painful, unhelpful conditioning in your life, you will be thinking about it, such as, I can't believe I ate all those donuts yesterday. This would be an overeating conditioning. Or procrastination as a career habit, for example. I can't believe I'm not achieving all of my goals. It's the ruminating, judgmental perception towards self that you're thinking about all the time. That's the most dissatisfactory conditioning you would be having in your life. So it's good to start there. What is the most painful habit a listener is having in their life, the one they're thinking about all the time? This is a great way to start to use the ASK technique on.
And ASK stands for a Serenity Kit.
Yes, it does. Yes.
And you've since gone on to train other therapists in this form of, what's the right word?
Therapy, I would say.
Therapy. Yeah. As well as there being like a book that people can buy. And we'll point to all of that. But how did you what was the light bulb moment when you were like, I see what's happening here and I think I can help?
Well, my own life had quite a lot of trauma. At the age of 18, I'd had a nervous breakdown and was given medication, which really didn't help me back in the 90s.
No.
So I really felt there was a gap in the mental health sector. And I was a therapist in Bahrain in the Middle East, and I had this clinic, and everybody would come to see me. And I noticed that this formula I was able to use on my clients helped them to create great change. So, and often clients would come to see me and say, I've been seeing my psychologist in the UK for 18 months. I've got OCD. And then I would think, well, why have you been seeing your psychologist for 18 months and you still have OCD? Whereas my clients were able to shift very deep patterns. I was helping anorexics to eat again, heroin addicts to come off heroin. People would come for one session, insomnia gone. So there was this big shift and change. So combined with my own dissatisfaction with mental health back in the day, plus what I'd observed as a formula with my clients, I wanted to be able to give this to the world as a therapy technique that they could use on themselves. So instead of spending thousands or years on therapy and not getting anywhere, because talk therapy just doesn't work, I spent 18 months brainstorming my technique into a formula that would be easy for the public to do on themselves. And that was back in 2013. And I launched A.S.K back in 2015 as actual kits for the public, a Serenity Kit. And I remember sending a kit from Bahrain to the Sunday Express. And she was like, wow, this kit helped me rid me of my insomnia. And she wrote about it. So it was kits back in the day. And then recently I did the book around 8 months ago, which is a full 11 chapters and then worksheets and guidebook at the back. But it's been 13 years of brainstorming, refining, and getting this technique out there to help the world.
And this specific technique can go across the board and help, say, somebody with an eating disorder regain a healthy relationship with food, somebody that's got an addiction, somebody that's got a different type. It literally sort of has an umbrella over everything.
Yes, you can use it for past trauma. It's wonderful to release abusive trauma if you've been mistreated in the past. So it's fantastic for past trauma. It's wonderful for relationship trauma. It's excellent for coping mechanisms, addictions, unhelpful habits. It's fantastic for any unhelpful thought, emotional, and behavioral pattern. It will help to cleanse an individual's patterns.
Wow.
So yes, it is an umbrella for everything.
And would you say that the book is enough, that this would really help for anybody listening right now that's like, I'm sold?
I think so, because the book's been out since October and we're selling hundreds of copies a month. And I'm getting messages from so many people saying, this is a slice of pure light. Thank you for bringing this into the world. You're really helping me. So I think, yes, the book is actually great. And then if people want to go further and book a session with myself or one of my therapists around the world, they can do that. But it's been done in such a way that this is like a 13-year project.
Yeah.
In that it's been refined. And start with the book.
Yeah.
See how you go and then do the guide sheets, do the worksheets at the back. Yes.
So it's practical as well. It's not just read and done. You have to get stuck in, basically.
Well, the book alone will be very healing. If you just read the 11 chapters, it's very healing. But if you really want to go deep and clear stored trauma, if you want to start to solve dissatisfactory issues in your life, I would say to do a worksheet every time you feel unhappy, angry, sad, irritated. Every time you feel that there's a pattern going on in your life that you're upset with, fill out the worksheet. It will take you 10 minutes and do the relevant shifts within the technique, and you will have a solution. You will feel a transformation. So not saying that you shouldn't go to your therapist, but maybe get out your worksheet as opposed to booking a talk therapy session and see how far that takes you with regards to change in your life.
Yeah. Sounds like you've got to be ready to put the work in then.
Yes, ready.
Yeah, you mentioned before about talk therapy and not being so effective. And I would completely agree with you. I've tried in my time many different talk therapists. And for me personally, I don't want to discredit if anybody does find a talk therapist helpful. But for me personally, it definitely wasn't. And also, a lot of my friends and family would agree with me as well. So it was interesting hearing you say that out loud.
Yeah, and I think that with talk therapy, you can just be regurgitating the trauma. So if you're talking about a past event and you're just replaying that in your mind and replaying that to the therapist. And I remember one of the first therapists I ever went to see it when I was 26, and she just held space for me and looked at me and maybe said 3 words in the whole session. She was listening to, what I was saying, and it was a little bit helpful for sure. But I really feel that people need to be coming away from a therapy session with a shift, with a change, like you would if you're going to the fitness instructor. You want a six pack. You're paying the fitness instructor to give you the six pack. You're doing the exercises. And so, as we would want a physical change from fitness instruction, it's really helpful to have a mindset change, a life change if we are attending therapy sessions. And I think that's how I did over 10,000 sessions in the Middle East when I had my clinic. It's now over 15,000 sessions. It's because I was able to provide transitions for people when other people would say, go see her. She helped me transition this. So for therapists out there, if you're providing massive changes and transitions, you can have the biggest business you would ever love to have. As opposed to perhaps people that are just coming back week after week after week after week. It's a long-term sum for you, but is it really good for the client and even the therapist's business?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. So would you say that most of us are living from subconscious programming versus conscious choice?
Yes. So when you're born as that blank canvas, and I talk about this in the book, paint strokes are added. So, for example, your health, there may be a paint stroke for eating junk food regularly, or there'll be a paint stroke for exercise. One is a helpful habit, one is an unhelpful habit. Another paint stroke or a behavior on your canvas for career could be goal achievement. Yet another paint stroke on your canvas around career could be only feeling that I can be an administrator, perhaps. I don't feel that I have the worthiness to be a CEO. So we all have these paint strokes on our canvas, our behavioral conditioning. And there will be nobody in the world that has absolutely perfect paint strokes in every single area of their life, from career, finances, relationships, social life, parenting. Everybody will have some dissatisfactory area because we are trained and shown, and we are modeling parents, and there are life curveballs that happen to us throughout our life. So we are all running from these behavioral conditioning, from these unhelpful habits, and you'll know that it's unhelpful because it will be the one that perhaps you're thinking about. I can't believe I ate all the donuts. I can't believe I procrastinated again. I can't believe I've got such an anger issue with my children. I keep shouting at them and lashing out. I don't like that I'm lashing out, but I can't seem to stop it. That I can't seem to stop it is the subconscious wounding in place. Number one, it's the original hurt that you felt or observed as a child when watching parents or caregivers or going through that curveball. So number one, there's a wounding in the nervous system. Number two, there's these specific beliefs that you've picked up, such as it feels familiar to procrastinate, it feels comfortable to eat all the donuts. So on top of the original wounding, there's this strong belief system in place that is subconscious. That then has an attached subconscious payoff. Every time you carry out that anger outburst, you scream at your children, in that moment, there's a tiny sense of power, a tiny sense of relief. That subconscious payoff is what keeps that habit in place. So we have the wounding, we have the belief system, we have the emotional state, we have the subconscious payoff. And then on top of that, there's a judgment. I can't believe I've just screamed at my child. So each one of these keeps that subconscious patterning in place. Also, some people are completely unaware of their patterns. They're walking around doing their patterns, and they may not be self-aware, consciously aware. They may be kind of unawakened, we would say.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that on top of that. Add all of those up together. This is why it's very difficult to create change. A.S.K addresses all of that in a wonderful 9-step way.
Amazing. I noticed a YouTube video that you made titled, "It is your perception that creates the pain or peace in your life." Could we talk in that case a bit about perception?
Yeah. And that's step 2 of the technique. So the 9 steps are purpose, perception, pain, process, picked up habit, payoff, plan, protection, power. I'm glad I remembered all of those.
All the P's.
And all the P's, yeah. And so step 2 is perception, and that's what you would write down on your worksheet. So we all have perceptions, thoughts, ideas, opinions, narratives, stories. And they can be split into 2 categories: painful perception or peaceful perception. And it is our perceptions that create our emotions. So if you have a peaceful perception, such as, I feel lovable, I am lovable, then this will conversely create a feeling of love within self. Conversely, a painful perception could be, I feel unlovable, I feel not good enough, creating a sense of sadness or anger or irritation. This is a judgmental perception of self. So A.S.K teaches that any painful perception that we have is a judgmental thought towards self for my actions, towards others for their actions, or towards the external world. So a judgmental perception towards self could be, I hate my fat thighs, or I don't like that I procrastinate. I don't like that I'm not a millionaire yet. I don't like that I shout when I have conflict. Judgmental perception towards self's behavioral conditioning. And then towards others, judgmental perception towards others. You know, I look at Facebook and I look at social media and I see all the comments where it's people are judging the behavioral conditioning of others. If they were to read the book, they would never make a judgmental comment on Facebook again, or Instagram or TikTok. Because when we judge other people, yes, they may be doing something corrupt or wrong, but we have no knowledge of their behavioral conditioning. They've picked up that habit along the path of their life. And this is what A.S.K teaches. It teaches to have a compassionate perception towards self and others and the external world. A judgmental perception towards the external world could be, I don't like the war in Ukraine. I hate animal cruelty. I don't like that it's raining. A resistant, judgmental, controlling narrative towards the external world that we have no control over. We can't go edit the weather and stop the rain. Well, maybe they might do it in South America with these dances, but we can't go stop the animal cruelty all over the world very quickly. We can't stop these wars in Ukraine, for example. We can't, change the weather. These judgmental perceptions towards the external world also create our anger. A.S.K will help you to cleanse the judgmental perception towards self, others, and the external world, thus creating your peace. We cleanse the perception towards self by realizing I'm a painted canvas, and each brushstroke or habit that I have picked up was a result of my life, was a result of modeling my father, was a result of the mistreatment trauma when I was younger, was the result of my bankruptcy 3 years ago. How can I judge my canvas when it is just there? Let me observe, accept, validate, be at peace with the behavioral conditioning of myself. It is this that is the precursor before change. Conversely, with relationships, when you judge everybody's habits and patterns, you will be in a permanent state of anger. You will be in a permanent state of conflict. So many people are in relationships whereby they are judging and resisting the patterns of other people. Because they have childhood trauma and wounding, and that person or that partner or that friend is a mirror of that wound, which is wonderful. Every person is a gift. They're coming into your life to mirror that which is wounded within self. Ask will help you to observe, to be at peace with the behavioral conditioning of others. Plus, step 8 will show you how to protect. If the behavioral conditioning of others is a mistreatment behavior, such as gaslighting, lying, cheating, breaking promises, invalidating your needs, etc. Number one, it is the observation of that which is helpful to you, plus a boundary that will stop that type of wounding from hurting you. So ask not only just gives you a sense of compassion and observing energy towards the patterns of others, it helps you to protect yourself from the harmful patterns of others.
Well, you've already kind of ran with the segue I was going to go into related.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. When it comes to, because a lot of trauma is involved and around romantic, let's focus on romantic relationships just for a little bit. And so if this is all reflecting back at you, let's go with something that's very common, the emotional unavailable person. Like if you're attracting that time after time and you're like, and I would imagine most people, myself included, you think, oh, it's different this time when you first get in it. And then usually it takes until you're out of it to go, oh God, another one. And, why are we going for something that is going to ultimately hurt us?
Because it is familiar. Because the feeling during the experience is familiar. And I say familiar because it comes from a family of origin, or it comes from a conditioning of some kind.
Yeah.
So I can break it down. So say, for example, you had a neglectful mother or father. As a baby, there would be a distance, an absence of love, creating a wounding within the child. There is no love. I want love. I yearn for my mother's love or father's love. There is a hurt. So there's wounding in the nervous system, neglect, abandonment, yearning. So that's stuck in the nervous system. Every time that child was abandoned, left to cry, every time there was an abandonment, there is a pain felt. That pain is stored in the nervous system of the child. And then they grow up. And that pain doesn't just go away. It's stuck in the nervous system. So subconsciously, not only do they have the wounding, they would have picked up a belief system. Love is not consistent. Love is unavailable. Love is going to leave me. I fear love betraying me, abandoning me. So not only do you have the wounding in the nervous system, you have these belief systems. And you've picked up attachment styles, anxious attachment, or maybe avoidant attachment. So with all of this conditioning, you will walk into a place and you will feel magnetized or attracted to the avoidant person in the room. There'd be like, oh, there's such a strong chemistry to this person.
Right.
I find them so attractive. And they will be magnetized towards you, which is wonderful because it's a mirror of your wound. The more avoidance you can date, the more you're going to get pain, and then you're going to sort it out. You're going to, you're going, I was anxious attachment. I've had 2 marriages, 2 divorces, which is great because I was able to really go in and clear out my abandonment trauma. I needed those relationships to fail and to have so much pain for me to go in and heal that. So yes, if you're in a relationship with an unavailable person, instead of looking outwards and going, they're avoidant, they're unavailable, try not to blame, because then you're going to be stuck in this pattern of blame and you will just keep repeating. You lose your power if you're blaming. More so bring it into, okay, I'm attracting avoidant people. I take responsibility for that. That's step 1 of the technique, purpose. Can I take responsibility for my own unhelpful thoughts, emotions, and habits? Bring everything back to self.
Okay.
Can I take accountability, not in a blaming of self way, more in a, this is what is happening in my life. No one is going to heal it for me, not the talk therapist, not even the other therapist, unless I take accountability for the shifting of my thoughts, emotions, and habits. Can I, in a very self-compassionate way, take accountability to work on my unhelpful thoughts, emotions, and habits? So yes, I'm attracting avoidant people. So you would write that in your worksheet. And then just going down to identify that it is I that is unavailable. I have an abandonment wound. I have an unavailable wound myself. Can I then go forward to do the relevant healing on the things I suggested? I talked about there, the original wounding, the belief systems, working through all of that so that you become emotionally available to yourself. Somebody that's gone through neglect, abandonment, being left. As a child, we couldn't become emotionally available to ourselves because that was our parents' job. But as an adult, it's wonderful to become emotionally available to yourself. You are your source of love. You are your source of wholeness. You are the person that replaces the fear, neglect, abandonment with love. The fear, neglect, abandonment is a lack of love. You bring in love consciousness into those wounds that have voids within them. As you start to do that, you become a secure attachment style and you will not be attracted to the avoidant in the room. More so, you will be happy to be alone. You'll be happy to be alone because you'll have felt that beautiful love within self and within the universe. And they're just not attractive anymore. You would immediately see, oh, okay, he didn't text me after the first date for a week. So no, I'm not interested in that because the trigger will have been healed. But if you're being triggered, it's the wound isn't being healed.
Wow. Fascinating stuff. So if we move into, I guess, a couple of practical tools for our listeners, because it's not just about recognizing the cycles and the patterns, because I think a lot of people are, I mean, thanks to social media probably, and the wellness has really blown up, hasn't it, since COVID?
Yes, it really has. Yes.
It's like, oh, I keep going for that person, or I have this fear around a scarcity mindset, or not good enough to chase my dreams, or whatever it is. What's the first step, would you say?
Okay. So we'll do quickly step 1 to 4. It will take minutes. So give me a perception what you just said there. You said
what's a big one?
You said scarcity mindset, was it?
Okay. Yeah. Scarcity mindset.
Okay. So purpose, 10 out of 10. I'm ready to do my healing purpose and solve this issue. 10 out of 10. That gives you a strong intention, strong willingness to do the technique. Then your mind will open. Step 2, perception. Write down the judgmental perception. I don't like that I have a scarcity mindset. It's a judgmental perception. What are the 3 emotions that perception creates for you? Well, I'm frustrated that I have a scarcity mindset. I feel powerless. I feel irritated. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. High emotional frequency. That's step 1 to 3 done. Purpose, perception, pain. Then there is the somatic part of ask. And this is why it took me 13 years to kind of refine it. I wanted a somatic part in it. Step 4 is process. Let me process my emotions. Frustration, powerlessness, irritation, I think I said. So frustration. People don't like to feel their emotional pain. And step 4 is to feel your emotional pain, to accept, observe, validate, and allow your emotional pain. So step 4 of the technique is I see my frustration. I accept I have frustration. I allow my frustration. I validate my frustration. I have compassion for my frustration. Repeat 3 times with deep breaths. I see my powerlessness. I validate that there's powerlessness here. I accept my powerlessness. I have compassion for my powerlessness. Repeat 3 times. Take deep breaths. Irritation. I see my irritation. I allow my irritation. I validate my irritation. I accept my irritation. I have compassion for my irritation. That's step 4. So we're somatically bringing a higher consciousness into the lower consciousness. Just from doing that there will immediately start to shift the pain of the wounding, the pain of the perception. And that process will also go back into the original wounding from the past and start to cleanse it out. Then we go on to the other steps, which is about habits, payoffs, boundaries, etc.
Oh, wow. Is it a one and done, or is it something you have to go back to keep on top of it so the wound doesn't kind of reopen?
You can do that. You can do that. I mean, often when I do an ask session on clients, we'll go back and look at the emotional intensity once we've done the 9 steps, and they'll say 0 irritation, 0 frustration, 0 powerlessness. That's a deep shifting, you see. Often I'll do an ask session with somebody and they will never revisit that wound again. They will never visit that pattern again. Sometimes you can clear a pattern in one session, in one worksheet. But yeah, just keep revisiting it. You know, put the worksheet up on your fridge. Just keep revisiting it. It is your neural pathways on paper. I just showed step 1 to 4, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is wonderful also for the behavioral side, the boundary side for relationships. And there's a spiritual element at the end too. What is your life lesson?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there like a client that springs to mind where you were like amazed yourself at how profound something shifted?
There's been many clients over the years. I think one client, she was 26 kilograms on a drip in the psychiatric unit with an eating disorder, and they brought her to me. And I worked with the mother, because I won't work with teenagers unless the parents are involved. So I worked with the mother on her enabling behaviors and boundaries. And then I worked on the child with her past trauma and her thinking patterns, and she was able to eat again.
Oh, wow.
I loved that one. And then another client in Saudi Arabia had heroin addiction, and he'd gone to all the rehabs in Egypt, etc., etc. And so they brought him to me, and I worked with him on addiction and also his parents. And I still have the email, and it's like 15 years old, but it was like, you gave us our son back. It makes me tear up. But yeah, you gave us our son back.
Yeah.
You know, from heroin addiction. So I love these results. So yeah, many other results like that. They stand out. They stand out.
They like repairing things between family.
Yeah.
Involving other people as well as not just the self in terms of the healing.
Yes, yes, yes.
I think you often stuff and don't even realize that you're angry at that person, but it's just kind of like you said, it's that subconscious programming from something way in the past. And until you do the work, you might not realize. And that probably is quite healing too.
Yes, those are your triggers. If you have a lot of triggers in your relationships, I mean, I used to have a lot of triggers in my relationships, and I would just react from the trigger. And so really it's a wonderful rule for any listener listening in, is that when you have a trigger, do not throw it on the other person, no matter what they've done to you. Your trigger and your reaction is for you to take accountability for, and to work on regulating your nervous system in the moment, bringing all of that anxiety and anger into a calm space, and then addressing the person if they've done something quite harmful to you. The more we can cleanse our triggers, the more that you are going to be in an observant place in your relationships. You are a very, very powerful person if you are observing in your relationships of the patterns in front of you. And that is what ASKs addresses.
Wow.
Yeah. You are powerless if you are consistently reacting and arguing from your triggers. You're stuck in a loop of conflict.
If there was one thing, just to wrap our conversation up, that you would want our listeners to take away from this conversation, what would it be? Just
that whoever you are in the world, you're doing the very best you can right now with your thought patterns, with your emotional state, with your behavioral conditioning, and to bring so much self-compassion to yourself. Instead of, I don't like my behaviors, I don't like my habits, I don't like my life, bring it to, I have compassion for every single behavior I have in my life, for it is trained in. It is from that compassion that you can create change in your life.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So if people want to find out more on you, the Ask method, and all the content that you've got out there, you've got a website, which is kellyarmatage.com. We'll put all the links in the episode show notes as well. A lot going on Instagram, which is Kelly Armatage. And are you on TikTok as well?
I am on TikTok. Right. There's something like 350,000 on TikTok followers. Okay. Yeah.
Hello Hello friends, it's Gabby back with you. If you are suffering with your mental health, there is a crisis button on the My Possible Self app, which will signpost you to the correct information for immediate expert advice. Those of you who are listening on one of the podcast platforms, the My Possible Self app is completely free to download. You can access all of the content, so you don't need to worry about it costing you anything. If you found this episode helpful, please do subscribe and leave a review and share it with your friends. And to find and follow us on social media, we are most active on Instagram, and you can find us at My Possible Self. And I've been at Radio Gabby. Until the next one, do take care. Bye for now.